The Galactic Council had made a grave miscalculation. They believed humanity would bow, would beg, would negotiate. Instead, they watched in horror as Earth prepared for war. Lucy stood at the observation deck of the UES Retribution, her reflection ghost-like against the stars. 7 million souls, 7 million men, women, and children on Colony 7 had been vaporized in an instant when the Zytheran fleet unleashed their plasma bombardment. The Council had called it a measured response to human expansion. A warning shot. They didn't understand humans at all. "Communications from High Command," Thomas said, approaching from behind. His uniform was crisp, his face carved from stone. He'd lost his sister on Colony 7. Lucy had lost her daughter. "What are our orders?" Lucy asked, though she already knew. She'd seen that look in humanity's eyes before, in history books, in memorial halls, in the faces of species that had pushed mankind too far. "Total war," Thomas replied simply. "No prisoners. No negotiations. The Council wanted to see what humanity does when we're threatened." He paused, his jaw tightening. They're about to find out. The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. 47 species had signed the Great Accord, pledging peace through controlled expansion and diplomatic resolution. Humanity had joined only 70 years ago, young and eager, grateful to be accepted among the stars. But the older species, the Zytherans, the Krill Dominion, the Vex Collective, they viewed humans as upstarts, aggressive, dangerous. When Colony 7 began mining operations in a disputed sector, the Council voted 31-16 to authorize corrective action. The Zytherans volunteered enthusiastically. 7 million deaths later, the Council expected Earth to file grievances, to seek mediation, to play by the rules they'd established millennia ago. Instead, Earth went silent for 3 weeks. When the silence broke, it came with fire. Lucy watched as the tactical display lit up with hundreds of signatures. The human fleet had mobilized faster than any species thought possible. Every ship, every station, every resource humanity possessed was now pointed at a single goal: vengeance. "First target is the Zytheran home system," Thomas said, pulling up the coordinates. "Population 4 billion. Military installations, 12 major orbital platforms. Civilian infrastructure extensive." "Civilian casualties?" Lucy asked. Thomas met her eyes. His were empty. "High Command says the Zytherans didn't distinguish between military and civilian targets on Colony 7. We won't either." The first strike came without warning. 300 human warships emerged from slipspace at the edge of Zythera Prime. The defense fleet scrambled. But humanity had learned something the galaxy had forgotten: total war. Human ships didn't engage in honorable combat. They didn't follow the Council's rules of engagement. They used relativistic missiles, weapons banned by the Great Accord. They deployed biological agents, outlawed for 3,000 years. They hacked into civilian communication networks and broadcast the screams of dying Zytherans back to Earth. It took 14 hours to render Zythera Prime uninhabitable. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. Ambassador Kelth of the Vex Collective addressed the assembly, his crystalline body pulsing with agitation. "The humans must be stopped. They've violated every accord, every law. This is genocide." The human ambassador, a cold woman named Victoria Cross, stood slowly. She didn't speak immediately. Instead, she activated a holographic display showing Colony 7, the burning cities, the vaporized settlements, the death toll counting upward. 7,000. "You authorized this," Victoria said quietly. "You voted for this. 31 of you decided that human lives were acceptable losses." She paused. "You wanted to teach us our place in your galaxy. Consider this lesson delivered." The Council erupted in chaos. Species that had voted for the attack on Colony 7 suddenly demanded protection. The Krill Dominion's representative fled the chamber entirely. "We didn't mean," Kelth began. "You didn't mean for us to fight back," Victoria interrupted. "That's the problem. You thought we were soft, civilized. You thought 70 years of diplomacy meant we'd forgotten what we are." She smiled, and it was terrible. "We're human. We remember everything." Thomas and Lucy stood side by side as the Retribution approached the second target, a Krill military station that had provided tactical support for the Colony 7 attack. 3,000 personnel aboard, None would survive. Do you think about them? Thomas asked quietly. The ones we're killing? Lucy was silent for a long moment. She thought about her daughter Sarah, 10 years old. She'd wanted to be a xenobiologist. She'd died instantly when the plasma hit. Every day, Lucy said. I think about them every day. She turned to Thomas. But I think about Sarah more. The station's shields fell within minutes. Human boarding parties swept through the corridors with mechanical efficiency. No speeches, no hesitation, just the cold mathematics of extinction. Over the next 6 months, humanity prosecuted its war with terrifying precision. Every species that had voted for the attack on Colony 7 lost colony worlds, military installations, civilian populations. The Galactic Council's calls for ceasefire were ignored. Their threats of collective action dissolved when humanity demonstrated they'd developed weapons even the Council didn't know were possible. The war ended not with diplomacy, but with capitulation. The Zytheran species, reduced to 11% of its pre-war population, sued for peace. The Krill Dominion surrendered unconditionally. The Council itself dissolved, reformed, and expelled the species that had authorized the attack. Victoria Cross stood before the new Council, comprised now of species that had either voted against the attack or abstained. Humanity accepts your terms, she said. But understand this, we didn't want this war. You brought it to us. You killed our children and expected us to follow your rules, your laws, your idea of civilized behavior. She leaned forward. There are 3 billion fewer sapient beings in this galaxy because you forgot a simple truth. Humans are not civilized despite our capacity for violence. We're civilized because of it. We know exactly what we're capable of and we choose peace. She paused, letting that sink in. But when you take peace off the table, all that's left is what we are, and what we are, counselors, is very, very good at war. Lucy returned to Earth 6 months after the armistice. She stood at the memorial wall on New Geneva, running her fingers over Sarah's name among the 7 million others. Thomas found her there, as he always did. Was it worth it? He asked. Lucy thought about the billions dead, the civilizations shattered, the galaxy that would never forget what humanity had done. No, she said finally, but it was necessary. She looked at Thomas. They had to learn. The whole galaxy had to learn. If you kill humans, we don't just fight back. We make sure you can never do it again. Thomas nodded slowly. They stood together in silence, 2 survivors bearing the weight of genocide, victims and perpetrators both. Forever marked by the day the galaxy learned that humanity's capacity for peace was matched only by its capacity for absolute, uncompromising vengeance. The stars above them seemed dimmer now, quieter, more careful, as they should be.